The host does not have a degree in biology, chemistry, physics, anatomy, geology, or another branch of science. He does, however, have extensive knowledge on comic books and has access to the internet. Also remember that we are discussing fictional subjects, thus they may not be scientifically possible. Thanks and enjoy. Hey guys, Josh here with another Super Science. This one's for Ant-Man because, I know a lot of you guys probably know this by now, but Ant-Man's finally getting a movie after many years of, developmental issues. It's coming out this upcoming July, I believe, unless they move the date. And Paul Rudd and Michael Douglas are starring as Scott Lang and Hank Pym, respectively. And both those characters in the comics were Ant-Man. Yeah, I thought this would be a nice one to do. I'll be exploring the size alteration abilities and also the communicating with ants portion of his powers, which is pretty much all of his powers anyways. Now, I know there's other size alteration heroes, such as Atom. Wasp obviously fits in there, even though Wasp is much more in line with Ant-Man, because obviously they're made by the same publisher. But yeah, so if Atom uses a different method, I don't know, because I haven't read into Atom enough to find out. But I know he's probably going to be more popular due to the CW and Arrow, The Flash, and his, relation in that right now. But yeah, so I'm not going to go into that. I'm sticking with Ant-Man, but if you do know how Atom shrinks and whatnot, I know it's with the belt, but if you know, if he uses something like the Pym particles, so to speak, comment below, let me know. So anyways, I also read the comments from the last video. I saw you guys wanted me to stick more with the slides and not do live action like last time, so I'll keep that in mind, and this one will be strictly slides. So let's get on without further ado. I don't want to make this too long because it doesn't need to be that long. So, in the comics, Ant-Man contributes his size alteration to something called Pym particles. These are a rare group of subatomic particles discovered by Hank Pym that can be used, actually, to increase and decrease mass size. Not the mass itself, just the size of it. However, this is actually done by sending/receiving, that mass size to another dimension called Cosmos, which I'm pretty sure goes against some sort of law. Haven't found that law, but I'm pretty sure it goes against some sort of law. Also, the user of these particles becomes stronger and more durable as they gain size, while retaining their quote-unquote normal strength and durability when they're shrinking. So that's also pretty interesting. Also, so let's look at this a bit. Now, if you are in any STEM-related field, most likely you've heard or you know about a certain principle that actually relates really well to this topic, and that principle is called the Squarecube Law. To put it in simple terms, as a shape grows in size, its volume grows faster than its surface area, which is problematic for really, really tall things. Basically, you can think of it as the human body basically would not be able to support this giant size. When Hank Pym or Scott Lang were to grow and become what they're also known as in the comics, which is Giant Man. There should be a funny picture on the screen talking about Godzilla. I use Godzilla as a perfect example because really, especially with the rapid, increase in size and all that stuff, you would just collapse, over the weight of it, because you would gain weight no matter what, realistically here. Obviously the Pym particles are fictitious, so they don't have this problem. It's a comic book world, but I'm just saying in general, if this were to be done in the real world, it would be essentially impossible for you to be able to just grow like this and be perfectly fine. On the shrinking side of things, however, the Pym particles could work to some degree if they condense the space your mass takes in on a uniform scale, uniform matter. And that's still going to have some issues with it either way. There's really no perfect way to do this like they do it in the comics, because obviously this is the comics. This would fix some flaws though, because if you just decrease the mass with the Pym particles, you would run into some issues. Thus being you wouldn't have the same normal strength you would have being a normal sized human when you're, small. Obviously it would be relative to your size, just like it is now. And honestly, humans aren't that strong relative to their size as, in comparison to things like ants or spiders or anything like that. So that'd be a flaw in some of the powers of Ant-Man right there. So as you can see, definitely fiction. For anyone that's ever wondering, I want to be Ant-Man when I get older. Sorry, it's probably not going to happen anytime soon. Or if it does happen, you probably won't survive it safely. So now let's look at his ability to talk to ants or communicate with ants in general, which sometimes, or not really sometimes, this is definitely the thing that separates Ant-Man from other shrinking heroes such as Atom from DC Comics, which, I say Atom because that's probably the most popular comparison I would find. Just talking to a regular comic book fan, not someone that really knows all these different shrinking and growing characters. So the most logical way Ant-Man would probably, communicate and essentially, control these ants is via some sort of special hive mind. Now, ants are well known for this type of, hive mind characteristic, just like bees are. The most likely scenario I could see is that Ant-Man's helmet uses a combination of certain pheromones and vibrations, depending on what he says. I'm sure there's a processor in the helmet that processes what he says, and then from there releases a certain pheromone, releases a certain vibration that together, because ants are very sensitive to those things, so are bees. I'm pretty sure between the two, it could be used to manipulate ant to do essentially whatever you want. This would be very tricky though, so it would make sense someone in biochemistry, such as Hank Pym, would be able to develop something like this, because it'd probably be a synthetic pheromone, not a natural, occurring pheromone. But essentially, to put it in other simple terms, think of it as a very extreme version of a queen bee or queen ant's ability to influence their ants. So, yeah, that's about it. I hope this helps you guys. Hope this was interesting enough for you guys. I try not going too deep into it, because this would be like a 30, trust me, I did this before, and it went like 20-30 minutes. So I wanted to go deep enough into it to be informative, but at the same time, not super deep. So comment below what's your guys' thoughts. What are other super sciences you'd like me to do? Would you prefer me to go super long, like 20-ish minutes almost? Or would you like me to keep it shorter like this, around like 6 to 7 minutes? So without further ado, this is Josh, and I'll see you later.